Hi, Jeff here with the Bennington and Elkhorn Valley Railroad. Just give you a quick tour. This is been set this up inside of the a 10 by 13 foot unfinished basement room here, as you can see from the cinder block foundation. Bench work just consists of 2x4s. I had a lot of spare 2x4s from a privacy fence project I did, so I made use of those. And topped that, as most people do, with maybe a little over an inch of foam. And this is using Atlas track, mostly flex track. I like it okay. Some people don't care for it much, but for me it's worked well. And you know, a lot of people, and I appreciate that, will jump right in. I should say, take time to create kind of a track plan, and I did that roughly. But for me, it's easier just to start laying track. And so what I did is I literally just started with, because I wanted to get up and running as soon as possible, because I like to run trains. I just laid down one main line around the entire perimeter of the layout. And since I kind of have these two doors here, I was a little bit limited as far as how I set it up, because this goes back to utility room. I need to have access to that. It just made sense for me to kind of have it around the wall here, and then I just kind of created this little peninsula here, which ultimately, it's not really a coincidence that this little Lazy Susan here actually is about where I'll probably put in eventually put in a roundhouse, and in front of that would have a turntable and quite a bit of yard in here for storing rolling stock and doing some operations, switching operations. This little corner here is going to eventually be downtown Omaha. Just kind of the metropolitan area in which the railroad sits in. I'm kind of modeling a fictional line between the Omaha Metro and the sandhills of western Nebraska. The Elkhorn River is one of the first things. I haven't done a lot of modeling, as you can see, but I did kind of put together a little Elkhorn River here. Need to add a lot more trees to better reflect the actual river. And then as we move west, of course, you'll see agricultural industries, obviously grain elevators, tons of those in Nebraska. That's really about the only switching kind of sidings, industrial sidings I've added here is to support this grain elevator, which is only partially modeled. Obviously, a lot of scenery work to do, but I'm pretty happy with the way it turned out. I added a pretty long stretch in here, so a lot of people can only fit a small number of cars, but I've got a pretty long siding here, so I can bring a lot of grain cars in here. On the other side of the main line, I actually put in a little propane distributor, another one of Walther's popular kits. Let's see. And then as we progress west, eventually we'll run into the sandhills. A lot of people don't realize, but Nebraska actually has some pretty substantial hills in the panhandle. Not so many tunnels. We literally have one tunnel. It's no longer used anymore. But of course, being a modeler and this being a fictional layout, I had to add some more tunnels in. For one thing, because I'll add a bigger staging yard in behind this wall, and even a helix that eventually, if you notice, I've got 2x4s mounted up above the backdrop that I put in. Eventually I'm going to build up a second tier here, which will kind of be sort of the Rocky Mountain subdivision. I'll build up some mountainous terrain above that. It'll be more easily seen at this higher height, and then put some nice lighting underneath here as well. So lots of long-term goals. Haven't gone a long ways here, but as I was kind of starting out describing, I just jumped right in. I put in the first main line that goes around the entire the entire stretch of the layout all the way around, and then eventually added a second main line because I thought it was important to be able to run east-west trains. So I've got 2 main lines. I did put a small little yard here, which eventually I feel like actually probably sooner than later, as you can see, I've got a bunch of switches here. I'm going to completely reconfigure this because I just don't like the way the main line runs through the yard here. It's hard to operate, with the way I did this. I'm not a knowledgeable railroad person, so I kind of spontaneously did this without doing a lot of research, and I feel like I can improve on it. So that's one of the things, I guess, my MO here is the flex track is easy to pull up and redo. So I will be doing that, kind of redoing this yard here. There's a little river I did here. It's just kind of a false front sort of river. It doesn't go anywhere. They call this Soldier Creek. There is a Soldier Creek in western Nebraska. There's not a lot of really any railroad activity around it. But again, this is a fictional layout, and I thought it'd be cool to have kind of a smaller little creek in here, Soldier Creek, that with its own bridge, and a lot more scenery to do, but kind of started some of the basics. Yeah, and then eventually you can see I've got a turnout here. Eventually this will run into downtown Omaha, because anyone knows anything about downtown Omaha, there's a lot of rail history there, and still quite a bit of rail activity. So, and a lot of people also don't realize that Walter's really popular Union Station kit is actually based on the Burlington station that's in Omaha. So that makes the perfect station for my layout in Omaha. Of course, a lot of people know that the bigger station in Omaha is the actual Union Station, which is on the other side of the tracks across from Burlington, which makes Omaha kind of unique because it had 2 very large train stations opposite one another. Neither one is in use today as a train station. One's a museum, one's actually the studios of a local TV channel. But they are beautifully restored. They look really nice, and I hope to kind of replicate that look in my layout. And the other thing that's kind of interesting here that I'm going to be working on is I'm going to have a DC circuit here for a light rail train going across the 10th Street Bridge here. And that's just something that any railroad fan from Omaha, yearns for a day when we return light rail. Who knows when that'll be, but it will be in the fictional Bennington and Elkhorn Valley Railroads. We'll have a little light rail, one of those port tram, if you're familiar with the Caddo port tram, light rail trains. I've got one of those. I'm going to be running it, just like I say, on a DC circuit around here continuously, kind of hiding, popping in and out of buildings that all have set up around here. So yeah, that's kind of the quick tour. Like I said, this big giant space here is going to be reserved for a roundhouse, turntable, lots of switching, yard activity here where I can store a lot of cars. Here's the other turnout. One of the turnouts that will kind of come off the main line and kind of loop around here, and eventually, this will be not also where our passenger platform will be for the Burlington station here, going under the 10th Street Bridge and winding around before heading out west. But yeah, this has all been spontaneous. I just got lots of flex track and started laying stuff out, and so far it's worked pretty good. I'm using DCC. I'm a first-time DCC user. I love the NCE Power Cab. It's been extremely easy to use. Highly recommend it. But that's all for now. Hope you enjoy. Look forward to sharing other things down the road. Thanks.